Hello and welcome to this class of Principles of Microeconomics. I am your teacher Muhammad Nadeem Sarwar. Today we shall discuss the cost of production. That is, we shall discuss what kind of costs a firm faces while producing a commodity, both in short run as well as in long run. So let's start with the lecture. Students, as we have already discussed in our lecture of production, that by the cost of production we mean all the payments that a firm has to make to the owners of factors of production so that the supply of factors of production may continue without any distortion, and thus the firm may be able to continue its production process. These payments can be categorized as the payments made to the landowners called as rent, payments made to the laborers called as wages, payments made to the owners of capital called interest, and the payments that are necessary to be went into the pockets of entrepreneurs so that they may continue the production process. These payments are called as normal profits. It is also necessary to pay the taxes in case the government imposed any kind of taxes on the production process. So the cost represents the sum of all these payments. In economics, we believe that the cost of production depends upon the quantity of the production and the relation between the two is positive. The concept of cost in economics includes both explicit, that is, out of pocket cost, as well as implicit costs. In economics, all the costs are opportunity cost. This makes the concept of cost in economics different from as it is in accounting. An accountant records cost as the actual expenses incurred because of production of a commodity plus the depreciation charges for the capital equipment. How these two concepts, that is cost in economics and cost in accounting, are different can be understood with the help of an example. Let's assume that Mrs. A acquired an inventory of toys for which she paid $1 billion and she aims to sell these toys later at a significant profit. After some period of time, she received an offer from another toy retailer to acquire her inventory for $1.5 million. Assume that she does not accept this offer. The question is, what is the cost in this case? Economists view the cost as an opportunity cost. So an economist will think that if she keeps the inventory for her own use, she would be sacrificing the $1.5 million. So in economics, the cost of production will be $1.5 million. This is the cost of keeping the toy inventory. However, an accountant will still record it as $1 million. Next important concept is sunk cost. As the name suggests, sunk cost represents all those expenditures that have been made and cannot be recovered. An economist will never consider sunk cost while making the decisions of how much quantity of a product to be produced. However, sunk cost is visible and it must be paid. Excuse me. Sorry. Why this is so? Let's understand it with the help of an example. Suppose that a firm hired the services of an agent to help a firm acquire a building that firm needs for its production process. The firm agreed to pay the agent 5 lakh dollars and against which the agent will survey different buildings in the city and will finalize some buildings that are fit according to firm's demand. Let's suppose that the agent surveys the whole city and it forwards an option to buy a building at the cost of 50 lakh dollars. While the firm was considering this, firm got another offer or it finds that a comparable building in the same city is available at 52 lakh $50,000. Question is, which building should a firm buy? Either it should pay the 5 lakh to the agent and further 50 lakh against the building that agent recommended, or it should pay 52 lakh 50,000 against the building that firm find by chance. The answer depends how we treat the 5 lakh dollars paid to the agent. From an economist point of view, these 5 lakh dollars are the sunk cost. Therefore, while making the decision, this must not be considered. Therefore, the firm should buy the original building that was forwarded by the agent against 50 lakh dollars. Another example of sunk cost can be seen if a firm produces a very specific kind of commodity, and to produce that commodity, firm buys a very specialized type of plant. That plant cannot be used to produce any other commodity. Now, while calculating the cost of this plant to that cost should be considered while making production decision. We know that we have to take into account the concept of opportunity cost. Now, because this plant is a very specialized plant and it is used to produce a very unique kind of commodity which is not being produced by any other firm. Therefore, by using opportunity cost principle, because the owners of this plot cannot rent it to any other firm. Therefore, its opportunity cost will be zero and hence it will have no effect on production decisions. Now let's discuss short-run economic costs. First category is fixed cost, which is the part of total cost that is independent of the level of output. The firm has to pay them in a fixed amount, no matter it produces zero quantity or any quantity. These may include the rent of the building or the salary of the permanent staff of the firm. Next are the variable cost. These are the costs that depend and varies with the level of output. This may include the energy prices or the raw material charges that firm buys in higher quantity when it aims to produce good in a larger quantity, and firm does not buy it when it does not want to produce any quantity of the commodity. Therefore, variable cost is zero when output is zero and it is positive when output is any positive number. Considering only two factors of production, capital and labor, and considering capital as a fixed in a fixed unit, the cost that is paid to the owners of capital will represent the fixed cost, whereas since the labor is a variable factor of production, so all the cost that is paid to the labor will be the variable cost. And total cost will be the sum of variable and fixed cost. Firms can eliminate variable cost by stopping the production process. As we discussed that it depends and varies with the level of output. But even at zero level of production, this fixed cost must be borne. This can only be eliminated if firm shuts down its business. By shutting down the business, we mean laying off all the staff, switching off energy connection, and sell off the machinery so that firm has no plan to re-enter into the market and firm completely exits from the market. Only then the fixed costs are zero. Now let's see them on the graph. First is the total cost. It starts from a positive number because even at zero level of output there is some fixed cost, and then it goes on to increase with increasing the level of output. The total cost starts from the positive number because of the presence of fixed cost which remains constant through no matter what quantity a firm produces. And the difference between total cost and fixed cost is the variable cost, which starts from the origin but behaves same, same as the behavior of total cost. Next are the marginal and average costs. By the marginal cost, we mean the change in total cost due to one additional unit of output. That is, the marginal cost is the ratio of change in total cost to change in output. Whereas average fixed cost is per unit fixed cost obtained by dividing the total fixed cost by the number of output unit. Average variable cost is per unit variable cost, and average cost or average total cost is the per unit total cost. This can be obtained by dividing the total cost by the number of units produced. We can also obtain it by adding average fixed cost and average variable cost. We can also view these costs as now let's further understand the concept of cost with the help of a table. Let's assume that the wage rate is rupees 100 and the interest rate is rupees 10. Firm hires fixed unit of capital and it hires variable units of labor to produce a commodity. The total production, we know that it first increases at increasing rate, then increases at decreasing rate, reaches a maximum and then starts decreasing. The marginal production is the change in total production due to one additional unit of variable input, which is labor in our example. As we know that the total cost of production can be obtained by summing up the payments that are made to the factors of production. In our example, we have only two factors of production, so we shall pay rupees 100 per unit of labor and rupees 10 to each single unit of capital. Initially, we have 5 units of capital, so 5 into 10, 50. 0 unit of labor, so 0 into 100, 0. 0 plus 50, so our total cost will be 50. Next, the capital units are same, so its cost will be 50 again. Number of labors are now 1, so the cost on acquiring the labor is 100, which makes a total of 150, and so on. Next is the fixed cost. Fixed cost represents the payment made to the fixed factor of production. Capital is the fixed factor of production, and number of units of capital are 5 throughout. So the fixed cost will be 5 into 10, that is 50. Variable cost, on the other hand, is the payment against variable factor of production. Here, labor is a variable factor of production. So the variable cost will be 1 into 100, 100, 2 into 100, that is 200, 3 into 100, 300, and so on. The marginal cost in this case will be the change in total cost divided by the change in the quantity of the output, that is 100 over 10 equal to 10, or change in total cost, which is 100, divided by change in the quantity of output, which is 16, and the answer is 6.25, and so on. We can also calculate marginal cost by dividing the wage rate by marginal production of labor. Generally, we can divide marginal cost by dividing the rate of payment made to the variable factor divided by the marginal product of variable factor. Average fixed cost, average variable cost, and average total cost are obtained using the formulas discussed previously. Now, let's see them on the graph. All the short-run costs except every fixed cost are U-shaped. That is, they first decrease and then increase. MC first decreases sharply and then increases sharply. Both AC and AVC also first decrease, cut MC, and then increase. The distance between average cost and average variable cost is because of average fixed cost. And we can see that the distance is shrinking. Therefore, average fixed cost value goes on to decrease. It's important to note that MC cuts both AC and AVC at their minimum. Next, let's study the relationship between short-run production curves and short-run cost curves. The short-run cost curves, especially marginal cost and average variable cost, are the mirror image of short-run production curves named marginal product and average product. We know that marginal product first increases, reaches a maximum and then decreases. So its mirror image, the marginal product first decreases, reaches a minimum and then increases. Next is average production. Average production first increases, reaches a maximum, cuts MP and then decreases. The mirror image is average variable cost which first decreases, reaches a minimum, cuts MC and then increases. Next are the long run cost. As we know that long run represents a time period in which no factor of production is fixed. Therefore, there is no fixed cost in the long run. Each and every cost in the long run is a variable cost. Therefore, total cost in the long run behaves like total variable cost in the short run. That is, it starts from the zero and goes on to increase. Now, the long run average cost and long run marginal cost. To understand this concept, let's first discuss the increasing return to scales or economies of scale. We discussed this concept of increasing return to scale in our earlier lecture on production. It means that initially when firms increases both the inputs by same proportion, the output may increase by the higher proportion. From the cost side, we see that if a small increase in inputs lead to higher increase in output, that means that per unit cost will be decreasing. Therefore, it is called as economies of scale. Next is constant return to scale, which represents a situation in which increase in inputs results in increase in output with the same proportion. Therefore, from the cost point of view, the per unit cost should remain constant or same. Next is decreasing return to scale, which represents a situation in which an increase in inputs by a fixed proportion results in increasing the output by but by the lesser proportion. Therefore, from the cost point of view, we observe that in this case, the per unit cost increases and we name it as diseconomies of scale. Now let's derive long run average cost keeping in view all these concepts. Let's assume that a firm starts producing a commodity using a plant and few units of labor. But with the passage of time, it realizes that the demand for its product in the market is increasing. So, after a certain time period, firm decides to use second plant and more labels as well. This SAC2 represents the cost of second plant. Now, after some time, again the firm realizes that the demand for its product is increasing, so it has to introduce one more plant in to produce the commodity in higher quantity. And this process continues, which results in SSC 3, 4, and 5. Now, long run average cost will be a curve that will be tangent to all these short run average cost curves. That is, long run average cost will look like an envelope that will cover all these costs in it. That is why it is also called as envelope curve or planning curve. Further, we can see that in falling portion of LAC, The long run average cost is tangent to the falling portion of SACs, while in increasing portion of long run average cost, it is tangent to increasing portion of short run average costs. We see that there is a point on LAC where it is minimum. At this point, the level of output is called as efficient scale of the plant. We can further discuss the characteristics of LAC with the help of returns to scale. To discuss it, let's bisect it into different portions. First one represents the part when LAC is falling. This represents increasing return to scale or economies of scale. Next part is when LAC is flat at its minimum level. This is constant return to scale. Normally, in real life, the minimum level of LAC is just a point, not a flat surface. Last part is the increasing part of long run average cost, which represents decreasing return to scales or diseconomies of scale. Now the derivation of LMC, long run marginal cost. To derive long run marginal cost, we first derive long run average cost with the help of short run average costs like now we introduce short run marginal cost curves. Remember, marginal cost curve cuts average cost at its minimum. So now we draw perpendiculars from the point where long run average cost LAC is tangent to respective short run average cost curve. Now we mark the points where these perpendicular lines intersect with short run marginal costs. Now joining these points, we get long run marginal cost. Here we listed all those points. That's all for this lecture. Please post your questions and give your feedback in comments. Also consider subscribing the channel, liking and sharing the video. Thank you and goodbye.